Knowledge and learning underpin the progress we make, as individuals and as a society. When we know more, we can solve new problems and explore fresh possibilities. For hundreds of years, Oxford University Press has been committed to sharing the best in human thinking. From a child reading their very first words to a researcher expanding the frontiers of their field, we passionately believe in the transformative power of knowledge and learning to inspire progress and realise human potential. But the world is changing. When all information is at our fingertips, data needs understanding. As content crowds every screen, ideas need space to breathe. And when the next great thinker can come from anywhere, they need to be seen. So Oxford University Press is changing too. Whether we're making learning work for anyone, anywhere, anytime, connecting a global community of English language learners, or helping influential ideas achieve greatest impact, we will meet the needs of education and research in new ways, with new ideas, for new audiences. For as long as the world keeps making progress, we will always be advancing knowledge and learning. Oxford University Press. Advancing knowledge and learning.
Hello and welcome. I'm Liesl, a proud member of the Tvet team at Oxford University Press. I want to firstly thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. Before we get into today's presentation, I would like to share with you a little bit more about Oxford University Press South Africa. Oxford, as we are more commonly known as, publishes for all educational sectors, including schools, higher education, and of course, Tvet. We are an award-winning educational publisher with over 100 years of publishing experience in South Africa. Oxford University Press is South Africa's #1 dictionary and literature publisher. We publish more than 2,700 books in 11 official home languages. Our books are well researched and we pride ourselves in the delivery of high service standards. There's a renewed focus from the government towards Tvet institutions and the upskilling of people and preparing them to enter the 21st century workplace confidently. One of the most anticipated changes within the Tvet arena is the revised syllabi in key subject areas. Oxford welcomes these changes as it speaks to our core mission statement to transform lives through education. We recognize the power of education to change and advance knowledge and learning by uplifting and empowering individuals. We strive in our commitment to develop and deliver high quality and affordable educational materials to learners, students, teachers, and lecturers. You, as lecturers, while you play a critical part in the delivery and the development of our youth. You stand at the front line of the educational system, and we understand that these changes and shifts as you respond to the demands of the Fourth Industrial Revolution can cause uncertainty. But by choosing to attend this presentation, you've taken the first step in responding to these changes, and it's our privilege to partner with you along this journey. Our main aim with this presentation is to carefully guide you through the changes of the revised curriculum and what the changes might mean to you and your students practically. Without any further delay, I will now hand you over to our subject expert and author who will inform us on the syllabus changes and expectations.
A great welcome to all you colleagues. Thanks for logging in and joining us in the latest of the succeeding series in mathematics. Today we'll be discussing the N6 modules, and as before, I'd like to take this opportunity in thanking Oxford University Press's very knowledgeable staff with all their assistance and time spent in making these books a success. Without their input, support and ongoing advice, these books, as with the N4 and 5 series, would not have been possible. Today we'll be discussing the revised curriculum for Tvet N6 Mathematics. As with the previous N4 and 5 books, the contents for N6 will also follow the contextual model, as it makes the study of mathematics more relevant to the student's vocation. On completion of this course, the student will be comprehensively qualified to address the mathematical problems that confront them in their future careers. As with the previous books, all the solutions to all the problems are presented in minute detail, making it easy for the student to follow the solutions progress from beginning to end. A separate lecturer's guide has also been included, displaying all the solutions in great detail to all the activities exam practices, and the included trial exam at the end of the student's book. This makes it a very easy task for a lecturer to give homework or to set up a trimester exam, as the student's book only has the final answers at the back of their book. Although these books are of great value to the students, the main aim is to assist the lecturers in their preparation and presentation of lectures and to make the student more employable in industry. The aim of the revised syllabus is to provide learners with the skills to identify and calculate mathematical problems in N6, and the content form part of engineering calculation problems from industry. Furthermore, Mathematics 6 will equip students with relevant knowledge to enable them to integrate meaningfully into their trade subjects and also serve as the foundation for Mathematics 6 syllabus in order to achieve a national diploma. The specific aims of the revised syllabus is to continue and apply differential and integral calculus and serve as a prerequisite for Mathematics in 6, to assist students to obtain trade-specific calculation knowledge and to promote correct mathematical terminology. Further, it is to promote and focus on word problems and the problem solving thereof in order to prepare the student for their relative careers, to use technology in mathematics and applied mathematics to further technology. When we come to comparing the syllabus with the old with the new one, you'll notice that there's been more attention given to integration techniques. This reflects in the Module 5 of the old syllabus being converted to 5, 6 and 7. When we look at the first module, there's no difference. The second and the third and the fourth remain the same. But when you come to Module 5, we find that it's been split up. We have much more attention given to areas and volumes. We have a separate section on centroids and center of gravity, as well as second moment of area, moment of inertia, and center of fluid pressure. Far more attention was given to these areas as engineers, these are the areas that is going to be mostly applied. And finally, we come to the combination of differential and integration as the final module. When we get to our module weightings, you'll notice that module 1 being differentiation scores a 6, whereas the rest of the modules being mostly integration scores the rest. Module 2 being integration techniques being the soul of all the integration that we're going to be doing in 6 scores an 18, whereas partial fractions and differential equations both scored a 12. Coming back to our integration areas of area and volume, we scored a 15. Centroids and center of gravity gets a 10, and second moment of area, moment of inertia, and center moment of pressure again scores 15. Finally, in Module 8, we get combinations, differentiation, and integration, and that scores a 12, giving us our total of 100 for the modules. As before, when we come to assessment marks, they are valid for a period of 1 year and are referred to as ICAS trimester marks. A minimum of 40% is required for the student to qualify for entry to the final exam. There are 2 formal class tests for full-time and part-time students, or 2 assignments for distance learning students only. The calculation of the trimester mark will be as follows. The weight or test of assignment 1 is 30% of the syllabus, whereas the weight or test of the assignment 2 is 70% of the syllabus. When we come to the external exams, COVID has thrown a spanner in the works. It used to be a final examination will be conducted in April, August and November of each year, where the pass requirement is 40%. The past year we've had 2 trimesters, or should I say semesters, and this final exam will be conducted in November of this year. The final examination shall consist of 100% of the syllabus. The duration of the final examination will be 3 hours, and the final exam will be a closed book examination. Minimum pass percentage shall be 40%. Module 1 covers differentiation. This module is divided up into 3 parts, with the first part consisting of the first and second order partial derivatives by partially differentiating a function consisting of 2 or more variables with respect to one of the variables only. Using successive differentiation to obtain the second derivative of a function consisting of 2 variables and calculating the specific values of the first and second order partial derivatives at specific coordinates. The second part contains the practical or real-life problems with analyzing, recreating, and applying partial differentiation and then to integrate the results. First and second order parametric equations by differentiating two functions consisting of the same variable, using successive differentiation to obtain the second derivative of two functions consisting of the same variable. Calculating specific values of the derivatives as specified coordinates. Module 2 would seem a very short module, but don't bluff yourself. This is where the student will learn all the techniques to do his integration. The first one to refer to will be the integrating using integration by parts. I would stick my neck out and say about 80% of the problems that lie ahead in this N6 book would be solved by integrating by parts. So it's extremely important for the student to understand how to do it. Second, we come to integrating trigonometrical functions. Examples of that is shown on the right-hand side of the screen, and there are various methods to be able to solve them. And finally, we come to integration by means of completing the square. We all know that when it comes to fractions of the function below the line, it's not that simple to be able to integrate it. So but by completing the square, it becomes quite a simple task by using one of the inverse functions of the trig ratios. So that is very important to understand these three things, as it is the basis of what lies ahead. In Module 3, we cover partial fractions. Now I know from experience that my students, they find it the bane of their lives. And to try and explain it to them takes some doing. Here we've divided this Module 3 into 4 separate sections. We start from the easiest one, being single recursive factors. They are fractions with the denominator as a single recursive factor. And I found that by explaining this in great detail, the other 3 parts become easier for them to understand. The second part is 2 recursive factors. They are fractions with the denominator has 2 recursive factors in it. Thirdly, we come to the trinomial factor and recursive factors. And as the name states, they are fractions with the denominator as a trinomial factor and recursive factors. And finally, we come to improper rational factors. These are fractions with the numerator as a higher degree polynomial than the denominator, and has to first be reduced using long division. We split this up into fractions with the denominator as 2 recursive factors, or fractions with the denominator as a trinomial factor and recursive factors. Module 4 covers first and second order differential equations. In our first order differential equation, we started by writing it in the standard form, and then by calculating the integrating factor. Now, this integrating factor is extremely important to let the students understand, because it makes a very difficult looking, complicated integrating problem quite simple. And finally, we solve the equation by writing it in its standard form. In our second order differential equation, we do something very similar. We started by writing it in its standard form. We then determine the complementary function. And finally, we find the primary function or functions, and then add the complementary function to the primary function to get our final result. When we come to Module 5, we come to the module that has the most work. It covers areas and volumes, and believe me, there's a lot of work attached to this module. In areas and volumes, the student has to sketch a function on a given interval. He has to calculate the areas and volumes of a given function using the definite integral. When it comes to areas, they have to calculate the area between a curve and one of the reference axes. They have to also calculate the area between two curves. Volumes includes the disk method and the shell method. With the disk method, we have to calculate the volume between a curve and one of the reference axes, as well as calculate the volume between two curves. When we come to the shell method, which I must add is my favorite, because when we have to find the volume or the area around an x-axis, and it's given in x, it's easy. But when we have to find that same thing around the y-axis, I find using the shell method, which employs the x values, a much easier, straightforward method to use. But in the shell method, they have to calculate the volume between a curve and one of the reference axes, and furthermore to calculate the volume between two curves. Further, they have to calculate the points of intersection of areas and volumes under two functions. This is also important, otherwise how do they know what the limits will be when they want to apply the integration to that function? They have to sketch the points of intersection of areas and volumes under two functions. They furthermore have to calculate the areas and volumes of two given functions using a definite integral to achieve this task. Module 6 covers centroids and center of gravity. Now, this is another module that I found that the students have a bit of a problem with, especially when it comes to center of gravity. They really have to know what they're doing, or they're not going to be able to get the solution. Now, with the centroids, all we expect to do is to calculate the distance from any of the reference axes to the centroid of the area between a given curve and an axis, or between two given curves. When it comes to the center of gravity, they have to calculate the distance from a reference axis to the center of gravity of a solid of revolution, generated when the area between two given curves or a given curve and an axis is rotated about a certain reference axis. Module 7 covers the second moment of area, moment of inertia, and center of fluid pressure. Now, this section is extremely important to budding engineers because without the moment of inertia, they can basically design nothing. The moment of inertia is so important, and when it comes to fluid dynamics, the center of pressure is of utmost importance. So this module I find is extremely important, and I would stress the lecturers spend some more time with this than they would normally do with the other modules. It's extremely important for the student to understand exactly what he's doing and how to achieve that method. When you come to the second moment of area, they expected to calculate the second moment of area of an area enclosed between two given curves or a given curve and an axis with respect to a reference axis. The moment of inertia includes the student has to calculate the moment of inertia of a solid of revolution generated when the area between two given curves or a given curve and an axis is rotated about an axis. If the mass of the solid is not given, the answer must be given in terms of mass m. Now, this book explains in detail how to be able to achieve that. I've noticed that many exam questions revolve around this problem, where they do not give you the mass, but they expect the answer to reference the mass. And finally, when we come to the center of pressure, we have to calculate the depth of the center of fluid pressure on a vertical plane submerged in the fluid with respect to the surface of the fluid. Now, this submerged plane does not necessarily have to be vertical. It can be at any angle. And the student is expected to be able to calculate the center of fluid pressure. When we come to Module 8, it includes the combinations of differentiation and integration. I found this module quite the easiest one of all of them because the students seem to understand what's going on. Nevertheless, for them to determine the lengths of curves, they have to use the arc length of a given curve between two given points, followed by applying differentiation and integration formulae. To the right of the side, the A and B, we just refer to the standard equations that are used, the top one being the standard one, the bottom one being for parametric equation use. Furthermore, they have to find the surface of revolution of a surface area generated within the arc of a curve between 2 points that revolves through a full revolution about an axis. Once again, the two standard equations are given to the right-hand side, and they're quite straightforward. So what have we included in N6? Well, we've got a module introduction stories, we've got QR codes, we've got worked out examples, we have multiple activities, we have module summaries, we have formula sheets, we have short answers in the student book, and worked out solutions in the lecturer's guide. Has Oxford got a treat for you lecturers? They've made a poster of A1 size available to put in the front of your class. QR codes for extended information has been included, as well as you can use it in conjunction with plotting your lesson plan. Not only does it brighten up the classroom, but it just gets the students to be more involved in mathematics. I think it's a brilliant addition. Well, that takes care of our discussion. I hope that you have found it informative and enlightening. The quality of these Oxford series Succeeding Maths books are second to none and will be of a great help to both lecturer and student. I trust you'll find them as helpful as I've enjoyed writing them. A big thank you for your time.
Good day, colleagues, and thank you very much to our subject matter expert for sharing with us what we can expect for the Mathematics N6 revised syllabus come trimester 1 of 2023. And when we reach N6, we now know that there is this culmination and collection within our series and titles from N4 all the way through to N6 as a post-matric education within Tvet. So my part here today will be to share with you the features, benefits, and advantages once more of our Succeed in Oxford University Press series and book for Mathematics N6. But before I do that, I just want to bring a point of reflection across in terms of the quality assurance and foundation upon which we premise all our materials, be it print, electronic. And apart from working with subject matter experts who has industry experience, Tvet experience, and a wealth of knowledge that they share when producing these products, apart from working side by side with DHET's syllabus and learning outcomes, we pride ourselves on these 5 pillars that you see here, known as the LARP quality assurance model, to ensure that we use language that is appropriate on the N6 level, as we did with N4 and N5. We make sure that there are activities that help build students' competence and confidence towards internal, external, summative, and formative assessments. We also ensure that there is a level of challenge and difficulty that helps prepare them for assessments on a summative level. And this then in turn speaks to the preparation that we provide in helping them prepare for the national examination and progression after and graduation after N6, which is that proud moment within Tvet and the students' lives. And then the last pillar, planning, that's reserved for you, the lecturer. So coming from the Tvet classroom myself, not in engineering, but in business studies, I know time is not a luxury that we have, and even less of a luxury for a trimester qualification or course, where 3 months seems much less, almost like 3 days. But you need to get the syllabus done, you need to get a lot of other elements done in order to comply with the trimester requirements and getting those students across the finish line. And it is with this in mind that we ensure that when we develop something, it is being with you on that journey and helping you through these elements of time, effort, and that specifically speaks to the lecturer guide, which I will get to a bit later. So looking at the full offering of the Succeed in Mathematics N6, as with N4 and N5, we have the student book, which is Pantone, 2 colors, beautifully laid out in terms of the font. It was a carefully chosen and selected font style, layout, specification to the book design. A lot of thought and effort has gone into the way that is presented to stick to the foundations and principles that you find within engineering and mathematics discipline. We also have the e-publication available from the student book, and then also the lecturer guide available that houses all the elements that assist you with reducing your time, your workload, your admin, in terms of marking rubrics and answers to the activities found in the student book, and then also lesson plan and semester plans, trimester plans, which I'll get to a bit later. So looking at the student book, chosen here module 4 as our example, but you will find this in all modules. So what we start off with very neatly, without cluttering content or getting students confused already from the start of a module, we list all the unit outcomes that are required within a module, where they start, where they end, and laying it out exactly as the DHET syllabus prescribes. Then we have the learning outcomes, all listed exactly as the DHET prescribes. But the way we lay it out is not the way you would see it in the syllabus, which for a student would be overwhelming. But for a lecturer, we're used to the way in which those documents are displayed. So to make it a bit more easy into the transition of the module, we display it in a very clean overall manner and layered from units through to learning outcomes for the students to absorb easily. After each module opener, we have a starting point, and we're very proud of this feature because it speaks to the DHET's requirement for areas in which students can actually relate what they're doing, what they're learning, why they're learning, and relate it to a real life simplified example, either which they can envisage or which they have experienced already, but now understand where it actually comes in, or how mathematics plays a role in the everyday life that we find ourselves in. And each module has the starting point. So we use the power of the narrative, the power of the story, to bring across the learning outcomes and what students are expected and desired to achieve at the end of each module, but also in a relatable manner that often sticks more to students within a story that they can themselves absorb and relate to. So we're very proud of this feature in our maths and all our other Tvet products. Book recipe. So before you give a student an activity, we want to make sure that they've been properly guided. And with this, we have included worked out examples, multiple worked out examples before getting to activities in the book. And there are numerous areas or sections in the book after covering quite a good amount of work, where we provide a worked out example, letting students understand how a question is asked and how a question should be answered, fully showing step-by-steps, explanations, etc. Then having them do activities on their own or in groups that they could then reflect on the examples that I've just seen, so that they themselves now have seen a worked out example and can do it and attempt it on their own. So this also helps students that are doing distance learning and prefer working also on their own. And it helps to be the second voice of a lecturer within a classroom or a teacher assistant. Then we have another forward-facing feature, our QR codes. And the QR codes doesn't house I won't say important, it doesn't house the main content to achieve the learning outcome. Rather, it is an extension of that learning outcome content that helps enhances the teaching and learning process and uses now the power of video. And these videos are carefully selected. It's just not any video that we found on YouTube that matches the module name, but rather sift through them to ensure that the video is not lengthy, boring. It won't lose students' interest, but actually keep them engaged and entertained and also educate them. So we look for those micro lessons. And we also look for ones that are proudly South African, for example, because having it related to a localized context helps with cementing and reinforcing content and information. And where need be, and it is important, we do show the global and international type of videos where real life application find itself from mathematics. We have reinforcement elements throughout the book, such as key terms, definition boxes, did you know boxes, and examination tips and take note reminders. And these are not just only at the end of the module, for example, they find themselves in between the content of the module, because it needs to be mentioned at key and strategic points within the book. So the did you know boxes adds value with interesting and additional information around concepts that's being learned, definitions help, and key terms help students expand on the understanding of a particular word so that they can then comprehend what they are actually reading. And the take note and reminders help them prep for tips and hints for examinations. At the end of each module, you will find 3 key elements. A module summary, which helps students now comprehend and understand everything that they've just learned in a few bursts of bullet points, summarizing the salient points of the content within the module. Thereafter, you have a checklist. Now, the checklist is a very powerful tool which can be used in different ways for peer-to-peer learning, self-evaluation, or you as the lecturer as a quality assurance tool, where at the end of the module, spend 10-15 minutes, ask students to complete the checklist, read the outcome, and those under the can you column, those are the learning outcomes expressed in the module opener, which are the learning outcomes from DHET, the syllabus. The students would then indicate, yes, I know this, or no, I do not know it yet. Simply walk around, and the ones that indicate yes, you can concept check and then ask them to show you. So you said yes on this checklist as a student. Now show me that you do know it or understand it. or you indicated no. Okay, so what happened? You're absent, don't you understand it? Do we need to revise it? Go to page so-and-so and then revise it so that your no can become a yes. And when it becomes a yes, now you can concept check for them to share their knowledge with you. This in turn will quality assure that students know the power and value of their checklist, but it also helps you know that your students are engaging each and every learning outcome as set out by DHET, and that there is a recorded, formalized, standardized table that all students are busy engaging with. After the checklist, once everything is yes, confident, they can proceed to the examination practice. And this exam practice only tests what was taught in this module. And when all modules are done in this manner, you get the national examination preparation, which mimics the exact duration that DHET sets out, the mark allocations, the instructions, the way this questions are laid out, the mark allocation. So we take what we've learned and seen and experienced from in 4, in 5, and anticipate for in 6. This is a beautiful tool that we just move this out of the way. This is a beautiful tool that we have decided to include in our marketing campaign for the N6 mathematics. So it is important to note that this poster does not come with your book purchase, but it is part of the marketing campaign and marketing material that is afforded to the attendees of our workshops, future workshops, and any complementary products that you do receive from our Tvet sales consultants. And this is an A1 poster that can serve as a front of class teaching tool. And you'll see that it notes all 8 modules of N6. The first 3 includes QR codes as well for extended learning, but each module has a small introductory paragraph that helps students know what the module is about, where it possibly links to real world. So this is from a student perspective. But from a lecturer, you can actually use this as a lesson planner, front of class lesson planner with sticky notes, where module 1, you put the sticky note, that's week 1. This is week 1. Module 3, week 2. And this can help you keep track, as well as your students keep track of what they've missed if they were absent, and where you're headed going towards the end of the trimester. So this is a very powerful tool which can be used very flexibly in your teaching and learning environment. So now coming back to the planning pillar of our quality assurance, and this is where the lecturer guide comes in. That is really developed with the aim of helping you, the lecturer, with reduced workload by providing semester, trimester plans, lesson plan templates, teaching suggestions from our subject matter experts that has accumulated best practices over the year, for example, that you could try in your own classrooms as well. And then eventually these things all add up and save time. And especially when it comes to test and examination preparation, by providing you with all the solutions to the activities and the marking guidelines for the national examination. So here's an example of the teaching plan for N6, starting with module 1, for example. We left the last column open, and that is with purpose, because we cannot be prescriptive on the dates that you teach. You need to determine what is your start and finish date based on your college's start and finish dates and your pace setters set out. So we leave this column open for you to populate based on your particular college needs. But you can photocopy this templates or copy and paste it from the electronic version and use your college's templates, or you can use these templates directly. You know, it feeds into the same information of what outcomes are you teaching, how are you assessing the students, what resources are you using, when did you start and sign off on your lesson. Here are examples of the activity solutions that we provide for all activities in the book, for all modules, and then the mock exam will also feature the ticks and showing where the ticks are allocated for the full complement of the marks. And this would mimic what you can expect when you do national marking, for example, where ticks are allocated, so in order to ensure the standardized approach of marking at the national level. And to end off, these are the key features and elements that we as Oxford University Press in the team Tvet uses to produce our books. We align ourselves to DHET. We use experienced authors that has both Tvet and industry experience. We align both the student book and the lecturer guide. Where applicable, not in mathematics, there are additional resources such as workbooks provided. Our books run a very simple recipe, but effective recipe of having module openers, simplified. We have case starting points in terms of case studies that mimic real-life narratives that students can relate to. We have power breaks and activities that help build competence and confidence, as well as worked out examples specific to mathematics. We have the reinforcement elements of did you know boxes, definition boxes, QR codes, exam tips, and so forth. Each module ends with 3 key elements, which is a summary, a checklist, and a module assessment. And at the end of all the modules, we have a national examination preparation section. Then we also have our digital platform, where we house our front of class PowerPoint presentations, which is easily accessible to you. And any additional digital assets or assessments that may feature within a specific title where applicable. And then, of course, we are proud to join you and be part of your journey in Tvet. And we offer support in terms of webinars and workshops such as this. So in summary, if you are already part of the Oxford University Press family from N4, you would know that we have a digital platform known as Learning Zone, but we are now moving over to our all-in-one digital hub, which has much more functionalities, known as EduZone. And if you are still going to the Learning Zone page, you would be redirected, or you need to click on the buttons, the hyperlink areas, to redirect you to the EduZone page to register and get yourself onto that platform. So here's a QR code that takes you directly to that landing page, or the URL here at the bottom. And you know, the registration to access the EduZone platform is already open. And this is what we will be moving forward with in 2023. So be sure to self-guide yourself to the landing page and navigate the easy prompts, or get in touch with your sales consultant to assist you to move over from Learning Zone to EduZone. And with that, colleagues, I'd like to say thank you very much for your time and attention here today. I trust that you have learned something or gained some value from this. If you have been part of the OUP family from N4 to N5, we are now excitingly moving over into N6. If you are now joining us for the first time, welcome, and we look definitely forward to having you part of the OUP Tvet family, and wish you all the luck with your remaining days for the trimester, and then the anticipated N6 revised curriculum. And we look forward to being a partner with you to succeed in Tvet and also mathematics.